Uhuru, it's an honor to be here today. Chairman, that was an incredible presentation. And I just salute that presentation and all of your leadership politically, strategically, and in every possible way for the last 40 or 50 years in this world that is bringing it to the cusp of world revolution led by the African working class. And I want to join in saluting all of the incredible presentations from yesterday by the chairman, by Deputy Chair Onizine Shatella, to Chairwoman Simba, Dr. Aisha Fields, Kitty Riley, Jesse, Chair Jesse, President Kalambai, Director Akile Anai of Agitprop, and also the MC and the appeal by Casey and Ali Ayello. It was a powerful day. I salute everybody who is here. I also want to salute really quickly the National Central Committee of the African People's Solidarity Committee, including our Secretary General, Allison Haney, Kitty Riley, Director of the Office of Reparations and Economic Development, Maureen Wagner over Uhuru Foods, Janice Kantz, Stephanie Midler, Lisa Watson, Casey Mackey, and Renee Nassar, and Jesse Neville, of course. So really want to salute the NCC of APSC. I just want to deeply, again, appreciate Chairman Omali Shatella's incredible and powerful overview of this workshop and of this campaign and the significance of it, especially in this period, that the bourgeoisie of imperialism, parasitic capitalism, is not afraid of this virus. It is afraid of African people and the resistance of African and oppressed peoples around the world, which Chairman Omali Shatella has led in showing and proving that the weakness and the vulnerability of parasitic capitalism and its ruling class is based on the resistance of African and oppressed people around the world every single day, that US imperialism cannot go out and with the same impunity do what it has always done to African and oppressed peoples without paying a price, a greater and greater price. The other thing that I wanted us to really be able to understand in this discussion is what the chairman laid out in terms of the dialectics of the political economy of parasitic capitalism. And that the chairman is the one who has, first of all, brought the understanding of parasitism, that capitalism is born on the enslavement of African people, on the rape and plunder of the rest of the world by the white world. He has brought this idea into, now we see, the mainstream of bourgeois intellectual thought. It has entered into academia and other and other fronts of the bourgeoisie because of the political struggle that the chairman has taken on, including the tribunals that went on for 12 years that indicted US imperialism and demanded reparations to African people to the tune of, at that time, $4.1 trillion, which would now be worth much more. But I just want to read really quickly from this book, Uneasy Equilibrium, which is brilliant and amazing, and it is the companion book of the book Vanguard that is out now. You must have both of these books. This is essential if you do not have both of these books, which you must have. But I want to read where the chairman is talking about the theory of African internationalism, where the chairman is talking about this dialectic. He is saying, unlike Marx and Lenin, we African internationalists deny that there has ever been anything progressive about capitalism. And it's incredible to see and to read that Marx and Lenin did operate on the premise that capitalism overall was progressive in the world. It was a step up this ladder that supposedly was leading to communism, ironically. And the chairman has said that capitalism was born in disrepute of the rapes, massacres, occupations, genocides, colonialism, and every despicable act humans are capable of inflicting. He said, capitalism was not responsible for some great, otherwise unimaginable leap in production, which, quote, despite its contradictions, resulted in human progress and enlightenment. What capitalism did was to rip the vast majority of humanity out of the productive process in Africa, Asia, the Middle East, Australia, and what has become known as the Americas. And you know, he goes on, and I want you to read this whole section on that African people have produced for white people for the last 500 years, 600 years, not for themselves. And so the question of reparations is not even for a period of time in which the labor of African people was stolen. It is not a repayment of that, because that is not how the capitalist system works. That is not dialectical, and that is not how parasitism functions. And that at this point, it is the ruling class that has the greatest concentration of this wealth in its hands. And everything that imperialism is about, every single mechanism of the infrastructure of the capitalist system, is to ensure that not only does that amount of resources stay in the hands of the ruling class, but that it increase day after day after day, that it continues to grow and escalate, and that there is not, you know, let me just say this first of all, I see a lot of things in white liberal and left websites that are really based on the premise that there could be a just banking system. There could be a just capitalism. There could be even a just Wall Street. There are these, you know, forces that are advocating for certain laws and that be passed by Congress that would rein in what Wall Street could do, which is absolutely ridiculous, because this is about the struggle of African people having control over their material basis for the means of production for themselves. So it means taking back what Africans were forced to produce for the rest of the world and unleashing their own power to continue and to begin to continue to build for themselves, for their own economy. And that economy, as the chairman has laid out, is a world socialist economy. And it is the only way that there can be a world socialist economy. It is, you know, as we've said, the chairman has laid out that the working class of the entire world is in the colonies. All white people sit on the pedestal, including working people. And that's why, you know, that all of us sit on the pedestal. That's why there is this identification of the poorest sector of white people with our ruling class. That's why the left doesn't take this on. They aspire to be there. They aspire to be there. That's what is progressive in white society, on the pedestal. What is progressive is let all white people have a chance to get up there with the Wall Street bankers, with the Pentagon, with the president, with all the methods and rulers of imperialism. Let white women be there. Let LGBTQ be there. That's what it's about. The chairman is talking about the inevitability of the victory of the African working class taking back, seizing back what is theirs, and which cannot exist in the same system, in the same world, let's say, as capitalism, as parasitic capitalism. African people can never be free when parasitic capitalism exists. And that it must be overturned. And that's what the chairman, that's how I understand this, that what the chairman is saying, that we have to, that when we take on the ruling class, we are taking on and exposing it as the agents and the receptors of the stolen wealth and labor of African people, indigenous land, and all oppressed peoples on this planet. They have that in their hands. When we take that on, that is our anti-imperialist struggle, because it is under the leadership of the revolutionary African liberation movement. It is about the destruction, as the chairman says, the power of the African working class negates the power of parasitic capitalism. So we're agents in this. We're part of the strategy for the African liberation movement, for the liberation of African people, the African working class, the African People's Socialist Party, to go before and challenge our ruling class to bring white people to this stand, that it must go, that all of these resources belong to African people and must be unleashed. And this is the return of the stolen wealth. This is the redistribution that is talked about by socialists of the wealth of the world. This is it. This is it. It's not some other idea. It's not $15 an hour, as the chairman always says. It's not even white workers have power. I mean, white workers in power, wasn't that what the Nazis were? National socialism? White socialism is a scary thing. And it's not socialism, but the fact is that the socialism of this planet will be brought to the world through the liberation of Africa and African people, which brings with it all oppressed and colonized peoples, and us, if we jump off that pedestal and stand for reparations. I wanted to say, I know I may not have time to go over these slides, but I do want to say a couple of things. One is, in 2014, this book called The Half Has Never Been Told came out, and this really exposes the influence that African internationalism and Chairman Omali Yeshitela, along with the essay that the chairman read that was in the New York Times, The Long Shadow of King Cotton. And this is another book that came out around that time by, I believe this person is at Harvard, a professor or one of these things. And he says, and this is the first time this has ever been noted in a book that I've read. And he said, he's making the point that the violence against African people that they faced every day under enslavement was so great that in order to survive, African people had to use the concentration of all their genius to produce the highest amount of wealth that had ever been at that time produced in the planet. And it was this genius of the people. He does recognize that. That has never been recognized before. And just to say, if you want to read a book that tells that with the human face, 12 Years a Slave does that, I think, very well. It shows just the intense violence to produce the quota of cotton. And he says, enslaved people's creativity enabled their survival, but stolen from them in the form of ever-growing cotton productivity, their creativity also expanded the slaveholding South at an unprecedented rate. Enslaved Africans built the modern United States and indeed the entire modern world in ways both obvious and hidden. And that is Chairman Omali Yeshitela. He is not recognized in this, and I just want to say that has engendered, while I do appreciate this book and what's in it, it's engendered another political economy, a way that white people can make money off of and build careers. So it's another person that owes reparations, Edward E. Baptist. But I also want to say that he cannot and did not recognize the dialectic that the chairman is talking about. The fact that Africans have not had control and do not have control over their own productive powers of their own working class. So I think that, this is really important. I think that it is important for all of us to study all of the books of Chairman Omali Yeshitela. If you can find, sometimes, we have to find some of the older books, which were amazing, and that to see that this is not new. The chairman has very much developed, and always does, because he is an African internationalism, which is always about, the growth and understanding of every period, and he takes us there. But the essentials of parasitic capitalism go all the way back to his earliest writings. Also want to urge everyone to listen and participate in the chairman's political education every Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern at the Burning Spear YouTube channel or on Facebook, and really engage in this most dynamic political education and this whole discussion that's going on every week at early morning on Sunday. I also want to just say some other things, other books that were important to me, at least, to be able to speak to North Americans about putting the chairman's political theory into fact, into history, as it actually unfolded. And these books corroborate in a lot of ways what the chairman's talking about, even though the authors of the book could not put it out in that way. And some of them that I truly appreciate are this book, Capitalism and Slavery, Eric Williams, Open Veins of Latin America, Eduardo Galeano, The Black Jacobins, about the incredible Haitian African Revolution of Haiti, which is never talked about, which was so ahead of its time. I mean, that's a whole workshop that we need to have sometime. This is the book Reparations Now. This is of the documents of the first tribunal on reparations to African people in 1982. This is very hard to get, so I'm just saying. This book, American Holocaust, which talks about the incredible civilizations of indigenous people throughout the Western Hemisphere and the rape and genocide against them. So this is the political basis for taking on the ruling class. Everything that the chairman said, we have to haunt them, we have to expose it, and we have to be winning masses of white people as we go there. We have to use this to attack the ruling class and win other white people to understand that the leadership of the African working class is our revolution. It is our struggle. The demand for reparations to African people is our ability to wage an anti-imperialist struggle in its proper context under the leadership of African and colonized peoples of the world. And I unite with the goals. I want to be part of haunting the ruling class. I unite with the chairman that they are vulnerable. They're vulnerable because of resistance. they know what they're doing is wrong, that they have to do something. We want some of those 43,000 stimulus checks that went to millionaires that are for 1.6, or I've also seen $1.7 million per check. And they got to turn it over. They got to give it up, because African people are coming for what's there. And that is the future of this planet. Uhuru.